Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Steve from Dreaming Computers, or on Discord, you'd see me as Gateway. I am doing a little video on my ComfyUI node pack that I built that are a set of API nodes that use the Kie.ai marketplace of models available to us. It's similar to Fall.ai, and basically Fall and Key have like a lot of the models that you can use and just build your own API hooks around. You don't need a subscription service, so you throw in $5 to $10 to get a number of credits, and each run is deducted. So you're not constantly having to pay every month, which is something I like. And I originally started using it because of wanting to use Nano Banana Pro a lot. I would generate like 20, 30 images. I'll burn through $5 in like a couple of weeks or something like that. But I was finding I was using it more and more, and I was going into this interface and creating my images, and I usually create a grid of a 2x2 or 3x3, then going into Photoshop and cutting them each individually out to make their own like storyboard elements. So having been a long time ComfyUI user and programmer, I decided to just, I'll add my own API nodes. Now I do realize that ComfyUI does have their own set of API nodes for this, but the price was probably about 40% more expensive. So I'm like, okay, a 4K image in Key is about 12 cents, and a 2K is 9 cents. And 1/2K, I don't know why you'd want to do 1K when you can just do the 2K. And so I went ahead and implemented that into my workflows. And, everybody works a little differently. And I'm a fan 100% of all the open source models when they fit my needs. And depending on what project I'm working on or the needs of my client, I'll have to either use the closed source models or a combination. So just being flexible. And this was all for me, but I'm sharing it with the community. It is always a work in progress. Please be aware that some of these models, video models, when you run them, will consume a lot of your credits. So I'll give a disclaimer up front. So let's kind of talk about a little bit like my workflow at the moment. And I have something processing right now, I think on Key down here. Oh, did it finish? Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and then I'll disable this for a minute. So what I tend to do a lot is in Nano Banana, I would take a face image, which I always consider the ground truth, making sure that my prompt references that and make sure I'm not changing any facial consistency and other things. So I always use that as enforcer, and then I'll usually have a person associated with it. So sometimes they're the same, but there's always like when I do a 3x3 or 2x2 grid, I want to make sure that the face is consistently the same in each cell. It happens sometimes, it doesn't, and it's all really about your prompt. But this is just an example of how I tend to work. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and kick off a Nano Banana Pro. So you'll see a bunch of things here that are grayed or disabled bypass, and I'll go over that in a second. But one of the important things is you'll notice in the console log by clicking this button here, there's always going to be kind of feedback you're getting from the AI or from the API, so something's going on. But I take these two images, this will be image reference 1, image reference 2, and push it into a prompt where I am just trying to define a 2x2 grid of this person in a fight sequence, and hopefully that works out. So while that's going, and then well, I'll talk about that in a second. I also have a Gemini LLM. You can use GPT. You can use whatever your heart desires, but I can undo this. I also you can input images, videos. It will do voice transcribing for audio or video, all that stuff that you can do in any one of these models. Some of the information's on my GitHub. And then just normal prompting, hey, take these two images, create a Nano Banana prompt out of it, and then send it into there. So that would be the first thought. And I also always like finding my system prompts that I would create in GPT or whatever. So I decided to make a system prompt selector. Now, this top part is the user prompt, and then the bottom is a selector of system prompts. And you can put brackets in the system prompt where the user prompt should be. And you can honestly, you just put these in a folder with the proper naming and the format that you need. And now you have just a user prompt slash system prompt system that you can constantly add to yourself. So something cool, just little helpers all over the place. So you can see this is still going. It's been 127 seconds. Sometimes this stuff takes a while, depending on load. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm doing this prompt at 16:9 at 4K. And when it's done, I have a little helper grid that takes my 2x2 and slices all those images into individual images. So I get 4 images for the price of one 4K image. So, and most of the time, they're not too shabby. You can, of course, go and do your own way. You can do your own 2K images of the very, no grids, however you want to do it. This is just an example of how I do my workflows. So here comes some of the new stuff. So this is Kling 3. And I just threw this together, so there might be mistakes or something that I'll fix or whatever, or misspellings. I'm horrible with spelling, but what we have right now is just mimicking the first frame, last frame scenario. So you can do that in the standard mode and pro mode. 9:16 aspect ratios, the duration. Now, just remember, this is a very credit heavy system. So I think it's 10 credits or 10 seconds, and standard is about 300 credits. So just be aware you'll blow through that shot pretty quickly. And then you have the prompts are kind of broken up into, this is your normal prompt, and then that should be changed to multi-prompt. But if you enable multi-shot, your prompt goes down here. And I'll talk about that in the multi-shot section. Sound on or off. And the cool thing, what I was finding a lot when I was testing and blowing through a whole bunch of credits, is that I wanted to validate my prompt and validate to make sure all my elements that are lined up and all the buttons are working fine before it blows up. So you can go ahead and run this, and it'll go through and just make sure that everything that you've selected, your prompting styles, your basically when you use elements, your references that you're doing, passes. And then you can kind of see what the output is, what it's going to send to the Kling API endpoint. Once you're okay with that, then all you have to do is pass that data into our Kling data API node. So this will actually call it and spend your credits. Now, you don't need this. You can hook up all these yourself and just remove this pass. I just find it saved me a lot of time and effort in debugging by having this little pre-flight kind of check. So that's the reason that this is happening. So you're aware, and then it outputs your video. So let's see. Then, I also have a little credit checker. So I always just do that on purpose and see what's going on. And the Kie.ai banana prompt is taking a while. So we'll continue on. And so this now goes to Kling's other feature. Not really other feature. It's just pretty basic. It's just a first frame. And just trying out a prompt that, will get a person to talk holding a product. I think I can show you that video here. Yeah.
Honestly, this tech moves so fast. It's wild trying to keep up sometimes. Shout out to Steve for making me come alive.
Yeah, so silly. You won't believe the amount of credits I've run through and burned through to just even get something that I'm somewhat okay with. But anyway, let's go back to that. Oh, so the first one, yeah, I'll show that, the first frame, last frame. Now, this was an action scene, and it just didn't come out, but I will share it, and I'm not going to do more revisions of it. Oops, let's start here. I mean, not too bad. Somewhere a shoe comes off or something. I don't know what that was. Let's see. Where is that? Anyway, yeah. So it's fun. I mean, again, it's also first frame, last frame. There's nothing like rocket science, but the model is getting better and better. I think that's the important part to understanding what you're trying to type. So let's see. And then that was this. And then this is the a couple things below. So, and this is still a work in progress. So what I've had to do, so Kling has the concept of elements, and let me just drag these guys out. So an element is a set of images. You got these two images and then that are batched together. And then I had to create a little helper node. So basically you can name your element. Yes, elephants. I do live in Thailand right now, so there are elephants around. And then a small description. Now this needs to be like a word, you can't have spaces or anything like that. And then you'll use this to reference it in your prompt. And then you can have multiple elements. So this is another one. And for some reason, you're required to have at least two images. Don't know why. Maybe that will change in the API. So I wanted to try to get this image or the picture of the can as another element. And what you'll notice is I have elements and element. So if you're only doing one element, you can just load that into there, right? But if you need to do multiple, you have to batch them together. So you'll end up with this, which is a little Kling elements batcher, for lack of a better term. So that's how I've decided to take their understanding of elements and how I put it in so it works in like a ComfyUI way, or at least the way I want it to be. Now we have this set to duration of 12. We have multi-shots selected, and then this is unique. So what you'll see is you'll have the shot number and then number of seconds and then the prompt. And what you'll notice is the elements are being referenced here. So Sadie is the woman, a cold Kling can, also the elements. And I do a lot of validation. So if you spell your elements wrong or you reference them wrong, it won't continue. So you don't lose credits by doing that. Hopefully this will check it before it gets to this and it'll kick it back. Sound is on by default with multi-shot. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking with the element system. I haven't looked at this video yet, and I've run a few tests and I haven't been able to get it to work like I want. So I'm not holding my breath, but let's see what they have. Yeah, so for whatever reason, I can't get the can. I can't get her to move. So I will continue to go on that. So I would, maybe you guys can try it out. The data that's getting sent to the API is all here. So you can see, you have the prompts, like multi-prompts, the duration for each prompt. And then the image URL, aspect ratio, and then the Kling elements, which would be the elements. I'll need to look at this again and see if it's called Kling elements. I'll make sure. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be working. I will again run tests, and I'll do much more like just an individual element. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this right now. This is all work in progress. Use this at your own risk, and what I mean by that is you can burn through your credits pretty fast. So use your pre-flight systems that I built to before you send them to the actual request. Make sure to always check your console down here below to see what's going on. And oh, you can see that the banana prompt finally finished. It took a while. It must be loaded server. So what you end up with is one image. And you can see it's, pretty high res, and the face is not too shabby. I mean, it's a 5,000 by 3,000 image. And what I do is I have the little grid thing, slice each one up so that now I have 4 individual ones. And I can actually probably use this in the first frame, last frame. But yeah, that's kind of it. I have a whole bunch of nodes that I've added. There's a lot of image to video. There's image to image. I added Suno recently where, it's actually not too bad. I think it's about 6 cents per run. So and then most of these will have documentation on the side. So, and you'll get 2 tracks out of this plus the image covers. And I think that's kind of it. If you have any questions, let me know. If you play with a Kling 3, let me know. I know Seedream 2 will be coming out, and I'll be adding that and doing tests. I'll also burn through more credits with the elements. They should work. I don't know why they're not. I will use their own playground version here to test it as well. And again, as you can see, pretty expensive for runs. However, I also have, an A6000 Pro, and I run a lot of like LTX and WAN stuff and all that. And I will use those till I need to do other things. And sometimes this is much faster. And I weigh the balances of like spending $10 to do a couple videos versus, some other amount that's kind of like the power from my machine, the amount of money I spend on my machine, etc. I'm a longtime Comfy user, so I will always prefer that. And if I can build my flows within ComfyUI and build the APIs on top of that and have them reasonably priced, I only would make money if you go to my GitHub and use this link. It basically gives me a small percentage if you buy $5 worth. I think I get 75 cents. So in Thailand, that's a coffee for me, almost a coffee. So again, it's appreciated. I've already burned through quite a bit, not asking for anything. This is just a hobby of mine. These should also be in the ComfyUI manager. So, but that's it for now. I think if you have any questions, lost a connection, let me know and I will try to get back to you.